tell Jordan what I have on.
And I'm very much looking forward to this.
Do you remember the conversation we had a few weeks ago about my first ever Monday Night Raw?
No.
Yes. So, So probably 9 years ago from November, we had this conversation a few episodes ago. Go back and watch. I went to my first ever Monday Night Raw at Nassau Coliseum, what it was then known as Nassau Coliseum. This was November 2010, so John Cena was still, whatever. Nexus was still a thing. And they had no Nexus shirts, and I was tight because I didn't realize it at the time, but I was like a smart mark. And then, I ended up having to get a John Cena shirt. So yes, this is the John Cena purple C Nation shirt, circa 2010. It is stretched to all hell because...
You know what? Even though it's stretched, Prophet Cena said it best. He said, never give up. Oh, I feel him moving. I feel him. Ooh, Shando.
Live from Brooklyn, New York. Come on, whoa. You're listening to the Culture 316 podcast.
What's going on, everybody? This is your boy, Jay the Creative.
I am the icon, the Don, the legend, the cult of personality, Angelo Carter.
And welcome to another edition of Culture 316. We have a very, very loaded show for you guys today because we are talking about WWE Tender Love and Care. I mean, tables, ladders, and chairs. And we're also going to be talking about a bunch of other things. So let's not waste any time. Let's just jump right into it. So, Angie, what we got to start?
All right. So, number one, WWE releases this past week Luke Harper, Sin Cara, and The Ascension. So, first of all, what do you think about those four getting released?
I feel like it's long overdue. I remember there were rumors of Luke Harper, a.k.a. Brody Lee, being released earlier in the year. I think he asked for his release.
He asked for his release right before WrestleMania.
Yeah, so I'm glad that he got released. I'm glad that The Ascension and Sin Cara got released because all those guys are great talent. And if they're not going to be used on television, they will be an asset elsewhere. So I'm glad that those guys got released so that they can work elsewhere because all those guys are phenomenal talents. I mean, The Ascension in NXT was a wonderfully booked team. They were one of the longest reigning NXT tag team champions of all time. Sin Cara obviously was a former United States. I think he was a former U.S. champ. Was he a former U.S. champ?
Something like that.
Something like that. And Luke Harper, multiple-time Intercontinental champion, former member of the Wyatt family, former tag team champion. He was a great asset, but I just feel like WWE doesn't have anything for him. And
he just had that really great tag team match with Eric Rowan against Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell like 2 months ago.
Yeah, and if that was like his exit, then that's a good way to go out. So I'm glad those four got released, not in the sense of like, they suck, but I'm glad they got released because now they can be used effectively elsewhere. So,
and my second part to that question is, what do you think this means for others that are asking for their release? So like, well, not necessarily asking, but like are waiting, like we've had Mike Kanellis ask for his release, and then we have the Revival who are, I don't know if they're still waiting, obviously we don't know because we're not backstage or anything. We're not any of these people. There's others who are waiting to get released, like maybe the Revival, if rumors are true, and other teams and other people who have been waiting to be used elsewhere.
Right.
So, and there's a rumor now going around that Daniel Bryan is actually quite unhappy. He turned down having a second match with The Fiend. Now, this is just a Twitter rumor. Right. Like, I don't know if this is real. That is not our trending wrestling topic. That is something different.
Right.
But what do you think about, like, what do you think this means for people who are asking for their release?
I feel like when it comes to asking for its release, it's kind of all up to WWE as it pertains to just like, okay, who can we effectively use and who will be an asset elsewhere that will, screw us in the long run if we let them go. So I think that the conversation is nuanced because I feel like when it comes to releases of other superstars, it kind of depends on the superstar. I feel like if Daniel Bryan is released, he can definitely be an asset elsewhere.
Yeah.
Just name a company. He could be an asset there. He can save Ring of Honor. He can go to Impact. He could do the Indies. He can go to AEW. He can kind of fit anywhere because he's a wrestler's wrestler. Mike Kanellis, I can see him in Ring of Honor. Can't really see him much of anywhere else though. Once again, it just kind of depends on the superstar. I feel like you can't just, some guys are WWE guys and some guys can work anywhere. So once again, I just kind of think that it's kind of up to WWE and just kind of seeing who is a WWE guy, who can we effectively utilize. How do you feel about it?
As far as I'm concerned, as far as the first 4 names are concerned, listen, Luke Harper's been asking for his release for a long time. They have not known what to do with Luke Harper for a very long time.
Very true.
I feel like if they would have given Luke a cleaner, look, maybe had him kind of incorporate a lot more of his Brody Lee gimmick into, the Luke Harper name. And a fresh brand, maybe even a trip to NXT just as Brody Lee.
Right.
He could have had some killer matches with like a Keith Lee.
Absolutely.
And a Dominic Dijakovic and, all the other giants down there in NXT. And even the little guys. Like he could have had a really good match with, Adam Cole's not little, but you guys get what I mean. Like he could have had great matches with Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano. So I feel like if they would have, he definitely could be one of those guys who leaves and comes back like a Drew McIntyre.
Absolutely.
Who leaves for a few years, really, really, really makes a name for himself and comes back.
Well, I mean, I could see that, but I feel like the difference between a guy like Drew and a guy like Luke is just the youth. Drew came in when he was in his early 20s. He left for 5-6 years and came back, and I mean, he's physically in the best condition of his life.
How old is Drew McIntyre?
I think he's like 3rd. I'm about to look that up right now because that's actually a really good
You
question.
said early 20s. I'm like, ooh. Drew McIntyre came in like 2009, right?
Yeah, he came in like 2009. Yeah, Drew McIntyre is 34.
Oh, okay.
So he's fairly young, and he's been with WWE for about, give or take, about 2-3 years now. So he rejoined when he was 31
in 2017.
So it's just like with Luke Harper, he's in his 40s, and that makes a world of a difference because.
True.
Drew was able to kind of utilize his youth to prove himself and come back to WWE.
Yeah.
Whereas Luke is kind of a little bit up there. He's kind of the same age as AJ, I believe.
Well, I mean, I guess in a sense what I'm saying is there's still I believe that Luke Harper still wants to wrestle.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I still believe that he could have went to NXT and had some good matches. So maybe not he goes away and proves himself. Maybe he just goes to maybe like a New Japan and just works a lighter schedule or something like that. As far as Sin Cara goes, honestly, I feel like these 4 names are people that they don't think are going to go to the direct competition.
Absolutely.
So they're not too worried about them. And that's not to say anything about the wrestlers themselves because all 4 of these guys are incredible talents.
They are.
Sin Cara, I feel like you go to a AAA or CMLL or something like that and just be incredible down in Mexico. The Ascension, I feel like they could even do like a tag team tour and just go around and, maybe go around and beat up a lot of the old tag teams that beat them up in, their little 2015 call up in WWE. And then as far as the other people who are asking for their release, Mike Kanellis, I feel like at this point now you kind of have to just release him because it's just like, you release these 4 guys, but you're keeping him. Now, I mean, his wife is still employed in WWE. It could be a thing that they're having issues with, not they're having issues with each other, but it could be a thing where there may be a conflict of interest. Well, this one's staying, but this one is going. It could just be that kind of thing. I don't know. It's all speculation.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, I think you just kind of have to give him his release. Now, Brian, again, it's just a Twitter rumor. I don't know if that's true or not, but to see that he's kind of he turned down a second match with The Fiend, which is the rumor going around because he's just not feeling it right now. And I kind of feel like since Brian came back, he's just been on 10.
Oh, yeah.
Since Brian came back in 2018, he's literally been, I want to say, on almost every pay-per-view.
Yeah. Since
WrestleMania 2018. And that's a lot.
And he's been fresh and relevant and really good in the ring and really good on the mic. So,
but that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot for somebody who wasn't wrestling for 2 years, for 3 years. His last match before coming back at WrestleMania was in May 2015. And that's 3, he wasn't wrestling for 3 years. That's a long time.
Let me check on something real quick. Keep going.
Yeah, that's a really long time. So, as far as the whole Brian thing, it is what it is. But we want to know what you guys think of these releases. Very shocking, very surprising, the fact that WWE is even releasing people,
right.
at this time now when there's like a direct competition as far as AEW goes. So yeah, please leave your comments below. You can also comment on Instagram, Facebook, all of that. Our next topic is our hashtag trending wrestling topic, where we basically discuss, the trending topics in wrestling on Twitter. It's very self-explanatory. And this week's trending wrestling topic is Albert C. Hardy Jr. Boy, oh boy. ACH quits pro wrestling. So yeah, he was final. So this is a whole saga.
Yeah.
Right? So we discussed the shirt thing, which we will obviously have to go back to in the point of discussing this. ACH was finally released from WWE. They just kind of quietly gave him his release at the end of November. And what was it, last week? It was actually the day that we shot with Jobber Tears. Shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to Jobber Tears podcast.
It was the MLW Opera Cup show, and ACH appeared last week. So what was that, like December 5th?
Yeah.
Literally like a few days later, like that Friday, he's like, he quits pro wrestling. So he goes on quite the Twitter rant. So let me pull up these tweets.
Pull up.
I had them up, but
and then you just...
Yeah, and then I kind of like dropped my phone. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, so his tweet was, I hate pro wrestling. I hate you. Oh, Albert. He goes, I hate you shitty fans that think you know it all. Most importantly, I hate the snakes in this industry. None of y'all would ever say anything about me to me, and that's on period. I just got to say that. I had to add to that because that part is facts.
That's a fact.
All of y'all can go screw yourselves. I'm canceling my shows and I'm quitting pro wrestling. Chasing my dream was great, but you self-entitled pricks ruin everything. I'm out. Then he goes on to do a couple of different saying a couple of different things on Twitter, kind of mocking a fan who spoke in Spanish. Yeah. Now, let me explain something to you. It was so not okay.
It's not.
But I died laughing. Like, that was mad funny. Like, I was just like, yo, you, like...
He really don't care.
You could tell he's like, oh, you're really an asshole.
Yeah,
you're
OD.
really an asshole.
OD.
But it was funny, but on, like, surface level. Like, deeper than that, I was just like, nah, you're mad wrong for this. But it was wild funny. So, that tweet... we had a response from, was it Shad?
Shad Gaspard.
It was Shad Gaspard. He goes, if all you can do is badmouth and talk down people in the business after people have gone out of their fucking way to understand and help you, then golf. Talent gets you so far in life, but it's obvious your character is one of an attention-seeking ass who wants sympathy while burning others. Grow up and understand the world doesn't revolve around you. This business, as well as life, doesn't cater to one individual, so either suck it up and do something or shut the up because this crying bipolar gets old. Wow. Period. Flames.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so going all the way back to the shirt situation in mid-October to now. Oh, I'm not done. He also tweeted some other stuff. I almost forgot. So sorry. I thought I screenshotted this, but I didn't. What's his damn name? ACH. He also accounted his situation in the Ring of Honor locker room
the Jay Lethal?
when he called Jay Lethal and Uncle Tom. Here we go. So the tweets that he made, he said, hold on. I'm so sorry. All right. So basically,
keep going.
He said that ACH said that Jay Lethal slapped him for using the N-word in the Ring of Honor locker room.
First of all,
hello. I got some issues with that too. He said that Jay Lethal slapped him in the Ring of Honor locker room for using the N-word, but then ACH basically said, but Jay Lethal was using the N-word as well. So how you gonna smack me but not smack yourself? Then he goes, in my best interest, this is a tweet from ACH. In my best interest, Jimmy Jacobs is a person who I respect and was the reason he felt he had to apologize to Jay Lethal for saying what he said. When he went to Jay Lethal, he never apologized for putting his hands on me. All he did was tell me how he's felt with racism, etc., but never once did he say my bad for hitting you. So to this day, I'll say it loud and clear. I don't like him. I never will. Stop asking me to apologize for what I've said, because I won't ever. Ring of Honor locker room was the worst time in my career for me. I'm over it. I don't care to talk about it, and I'll do whatever in my powers. And I don't think he finished that tweet. My powers to make sure I'm never belittled, embarrassed, or bullied again. No, I'm not crazy. I don't need to chat with a doctor. I'm completely happy. I have a crush on Kayla Braxton. I'm far from fine and good. I'm super. Tomorrow is my birthday, so I'll be focused on that. Holla. Oh, he slapped him in a hotel room. Okay. And he hit him back and took him down. Okay, cool. That's basically what happened. And then line of the century.
And don't forget the super bitch. Don't forget the super bitch.
And that is the title of the show. That is the line of the century. Anyway, going all the way back to the shirt situation in mid-October to now him quitting pro wrestling. What just go off?
So for starters, we do have to acknowledge kind of like every step, because I feel like there was wrongs on both sides.
Both sides, right.
I feel like he absolutely had every single right to voice his frustration with WWE as it pertains to this shirt, considering that the WWE has a history of producing content and apparel that is tone deaf to minorities, to women. That spans back years.
Yeah.
I feel like he had the right to voice his frustration. Would I have cursed on Twitter? No. But that's just a personal thing. He has a right to feel the way that he feels. I feel like as a professional, he could have handled that a little bit differently. But once again, I can't tell him how to react, because I wouldn't know how to feel if I was in that situation either. When it comes to because he was released from WWE, and then he he made an appearance at Major League Wrestling's Opera Cup. The Shad Gasper thing, I think that while what he was saying was very true, I feel like that statement kind of lacked empathy in a way, because it's like when you look at Shad Gasper and his career in WWE, he made a living off of fulfilling a stereotype. You know what I mean? So it's just like you came in, billed from Brooklyn, wearing relaxed fit jeans and a wife beater and some Timbs, and you were the most over tag team in the company, but Vince wouldn't even give you the belts. Not to say that he's wrong for voicing his opinions, because the business doesn't revolve around you, and the world doesn't revolve around you. But at the same time, it's just like the experience that Crime Time had and the experience that Jordan Miles had were two totally different experiences, because Crime Time was meant to portray and over-exaggerate a black stereotype in 2005, 6, 7, 8, as opposed to Jordan Miles, who was entering the WWE at a time where the narratives and the characters of black people in the WWE are changing, and we're living in a time that's a little bit more socially conscious. We're talking about a company that has 3 black guys running around, playing video games, wearing unicorn horns, tossing pancakes into the crowd, and still be able to, talk their shit in the new day. So it's like now we're expecting a little bit more out of what WWE is portraying of black characters because of the time that we're in culturally, and just where we are of the things that are socially acceptable and unacceptable. So with that being said, I agree with Shad Gasper, but I feel like there was a little bit of what he said that lacked empathy. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, him quitting pro wrestling, if that's what's best for him, then that's what's best for him. Yeah. You don't want to be in an industry where you are in love with what you're doing in the ring, but outside of the ring, is just a bunch of things that are slowing you down, that are taking you down, that are having a toll on your mental health. Because I mean, like we watch Raw, we watch SmackDown, NXT, AEW, whatever, and we see a match, we see a promo, but it's like that's only 3 hours of a day that sometimes is 12. So you have to understand that the majority of the things that are happening in pro wrestling are happening outside of the ring. You know what I mean? And so when you, it's like, do I want to risk my mental health for this 15-minute match, this 30-minute match, if I'm a main eventer, an hour-long match? Yeah. Is it worth it? And I feel like he kind of had to ask himself that question, and he kind of made a remark going forward. Now, I applaud ACH for kind of being ballsy enough to say how he felt, and to stick by what he said, especially about Jay Lethal. Because he could have easily just backtracked and be like, you know what? But he was just like, nah, I ain't sorry. Like, I'm not sorry. I'm standing by what I said. And
I ain't sorry.
And exactly, that's exactly what I was.
Nigga, no.
But I feel like there's honor in that. I don't know anything about Jay Lethal, so I can't speak to his character or anything like that. But like it is what it is with ACH, with Jordan Miles, and I'm proud that he stood up for himself. Now, is he crazy? Is he mentally unstable? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know what's going on. The people who know. The people who don't. I'm not going to say anything about his mental state, but I do recommend that people who are analyzing this situation not be so dismissive.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a possibility he may be experiencing mental health issues, and we talked about that last show, mental health, and that's not something to be played with or toyed with or whatever the case may be, or dismissed or taken lightly. But in the same token, sometimes it's valuable to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and I feel like a lot of wrestlers, nor a lot of wrestling fans can put themselves in Jordan Miles' shoes, which is understandable because, I mean, it's easier to empathize with somebody who has the same plight as you.
Yeah.
But it's just like, don't be so dismissive. Maybe he's crazy, maybe he's bugging out, maybe he's taking a stand for himself, maybe he just wants to be a troll. Either way, he's sticking by what he said, and I can respect that.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that.
All right. So
Jesus. Here we go.
We started with the shirt situation.
Yep.
I was 100% with ACH, 200% with ACH, because he was right. You know, like, now I don't think that WWE is racist. And I've said that. I don't think that WWE is racist. I think that there is a lack of representation backstage.
Yep.
And I think that showed. And, you know. Shows. 100%. But it showed up and showed out in that one particular, you know, situation.
Right.
And then more details came out basically saying that, you know, well, ACH approved it. And then he goes, well, I gave them a counter. And their creative guy in the middle, Baker, whatever his last name is, Baker told him that Triple H wanted that, yet Triple H told him that he was under the impression that that's what ACH wanted. So, you know, the shirt was on the store for like 5-6 hours, a month prior to the entire situation where it was, you know, revealed and whatnot. It was replaced and a Space Jam style shirt was used. I bring up the shirt to bring up the fact that I think right there, it was very clear, black and white. Mm-hmm. You know, if you didn't know that, if you couldn't understand why people were annoyed about the shirt, then you did. You know, you just didn't want to. You know, the shirt on a black background, of course, obviously looked like blackface, looked like a Sambo doll. It did not look good.
Right.
They took the shirt down. They did all of that. Then the next day, he goes and says WWE doesn't. He pulls a Kanye. WWE doesn't care about black people. Then I was like, okay.
Flip the middle finger.
And with the middle finger, started cussing everybody out. Called Jay Lethal Uncle Tom, and then he started to lose me. I was like, okay, listen. I 100% think that there are people backstage who care about their employees. Mm-hmm. I think Vince cares about his employees. I think Hunter cares about his employees. I think Stephanie cares. I think the McMahon family cares about their employees. Mm-hmm. I don't think they always know how to use them correctly. I don't think they always know how to push them correctly. And that's fine. You know, everybody is not for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like,
not everybody's going to see the same thing.
Not exactly. And not everybody is meant to succeed in the same place.
Right.
Where Drew McIntyre may succeed and become WWE champion in the near future, Adam Cole might end up in AEW at some point. Like, we don't know. And I for one don't think that that's going to happen. I think Adam Cole is probably going to be a WWE lifer or maybe even an NXT lifer. But, you know, everybody's not meant to succeed everywhere. So I get that. But you know, now if you had an experience there, I don't think there's anything against speaking out against your experience.
Right.
Daniel Bryan, AJ Lee, Charlotte Flair, they all have books speaking on their experience in the company. You know what I'm saying? Like, AJ Lee talked about how she was put in situations that were making fun of her bipolar, her mental illness.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying? And I've read her book front to back. You know, Daniel Bryan, they refused to push him until the people were like, push him. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's not meant to see everything. My point is, you know, you come up with the whole thing about Lethal, and that started to lose me. I was just like, okay, cool. Well, Lethal really doesn't have anything to do with this situation. You know, like, if we're talking about the shirt, let's leave it at the shirt. You know, then, you know, he gets his release from WWE. We don't really hear from him on Twitter for a while. And then he comes back and goes on this whole entire Twitter rant and craziness. And listen, in that the first tweet that I read when he was just like, listen, like, none of y'all gonna say none of this to my face. He's right.
He's absolutely right.
Because if Albert C. Hardy Jr. was walking past us, you know, I know, well, me, like, I probably would notice him and I probably have my music on. But if he was standing in front of you and, you know, you are somebody who's been saying, oh, well, he should just be happy on where he is. You're not going to say that to his face. That's number one.
Definitely not.
And number two, why should he just be happy where he's at? And why is it always when black talent have an issue, they should just be happy where they are? And they should just be grateful that they have a spot. And this is not just a WWE thing. And this is not an AEW thing. This is not a wrestling thing. This is period. Any black person anywhere could get any kind of position, and if they complain because they feel like, or they know that they're not getting what they deserve, it's going to be well, you should be glad that you even have this position. Why should I be glad? I'm overqualified for this position.
And I've been overqualified.
And I've been overqualified for many years. So no, I should not be happy with this position. I should be able to go to my supervisor, to whoever, and go, listen, I feel like I should be in this position. Or I feel like I shouldn't even be disrespected by my own job. You know, that was disrespectful. If Best Buy tomorrow walked up to me and, you know, put like an embarrassing picture of me on like a shirt or something like that, or did something that would embarrass me or, you know, disrespect me, I am calling HR. Real quick.
Period.
You know, so that's just on that. That's just on period for that. Now, the Jay Lethal situation, as far as, you know, him being slapped in a hotel room for using the N-word, bro, I'm black. I can say whatever I want to say.
Thank you.
And if I want to say the N-word, I can say it. And you, being a black person, shouldn't. If you have an issue with me saying that word, that's your personal problem. But that does not warrant you opening up your hand and slapping
me in the face. Because
then it's off. Everything is off limits. So in that initial rant, him mentioning Jordan Miles was a little bit like, okay, where are you coming from with that? But now that he gave us color to the entire story,
he gave it context.
I'm with it. I get it, because you're not just gonna hit me just because you feel like I shouldn't say something.
If you feel like I shouldn't say a word, then guess what? That's too bad. Because like, it's not your life and this is not your vocabulary, so you can't tell me what to and what not to say.
You can't tell me nothing.
If you feel strongly about a word, then you don't use it.
Period.
But I can use the mouth that God gave me to say whatever I want.
I'm black. I can say it. Now I could see if Jay Lethal was saying that to somebody who was white. And smacking somebody who was white. Because I'm with you on that one. That makes sense. But if it's a black person and they're saying a word that they have every right to say because our ancestors were called that word for so many years, and us as black people have decided to take the word and change the meaning of it so that we have taken the power away from the people who try to use that against us. We can say it if we want to, and that's on period. And I have nothing more to say about that. As far as I'm over here cutting promos,
right? Now that's on period.
Now, as far as him quitting pro wrestling, and as far as the rest of that. What Shad had said to him, I kind of agree with. It lacks a little bit of empathy, but as far as I'm concerned, if you're on the outside looking in,
you wouldn't know what's going on.
You know what I'm saying? You don't know what someone's going through. A and B, it's just like, dude, okay, okay, And then I believe this tweet came after the stupid tweet that he did at a fan. A fan was talking to him in Spanish, and then he goes, well, bitty bitty bum bum to you too. And I was just like, that's like racist. I said earlier, it's kind of funny. It was funny in surface level. It was like, oh, that's such an immature, stupid joke. I'm weak. But at the end of the day, it's really not okay. So, and that you can't complain about being marginalized and being racism and all that, and then you turn around and do something kind of disrespectful to somebody who is really supposed to be they're black too. Spanish people, as much as they don't like to believe it, they're black.
We're not going to talk about this.
We're not going to start this today.
I have time.
We do. Listen, as far as everything else, I agree with Shad as far as shut up now. To the point where now ACH was changing his profile picture on his Twitter. He put the stupid Jordan Miles smile thing on a picture of Shad.
I saw that, and he put it on Jim Cornette. That was not funny. That was jokes.
Now the Jim Cornette one
died.
I was with it because I'm just like, ew. But as far as Shad, I was just like, dude, you
ain't got to do all that.
You can't expect everybody to agree with you,
right?
Even if they're black,
yeah.
And I'm sure Shad agreed with certain parts of his story. I'm sure he probably did at some point,
right?
But then you go off into a tangent and start making fun of this and making fun of that, and you do the thing against Jay Lethal, and you do all this other stuff, and you're just wilding now.
Yeah.
Now you're wilding. So as far as I'm concerned, ACH is quitting pro wrestling. I think he just takes a few years and just gets his I don't know if he has his degree. I'm just speaking off the cuff. I don't know, does something else for a little bit. And if he wants to ever come back, he can come back. But I just feel like he's never, ever going to end it back in WWE. I feel like WWE is a wrap.
Yeah.
I feel like the only place he could probably go would be like an MLW because they were fine. They accepted him, So and MLW was like, we're cool with the decision that he's made, and if he doesn't want to be in the WWE, if he doesn't want to, be with us, then that's fine. And they kind of got rid of all mention of him on their website.
Right.
So
we want to hear your views, though.
But we want to hear what you guys think of this entire ACH situation. Please, comment below and ting and ting and ting.
And ting and ting and ting.
Alrighty, so our next topic on the list, WWE at the beginning of this week has officially announced the NWO as well as Batista will be inducted into the 2020 Hall of Fame during WrestleMania 36 weekend in Tampa. And of course, when we say the NWO, I believe that's every member of the NWO except for Hulk Hogan, because fuck Hulk Hogan.
That part.
I don't even care if he's going in for a second time. Oh, who's that? That's Terry Bollea. Change his channel. So this jacket that I'm wearing, the NWO, this is for every version besides the Hulk Hogan. But we don't pay attention to that.
So
he was never part of the NWO in Black history.
Scott Hall, Kevin Nash,
and
Sean
BET.
Waltman.
Black Entertainment. I'm sorry.
Sean Waltman, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash will only be acknowledged.
Yep.
And my guy Tooted Up Tista is going in.
Oh, shut up.
Tooted up. But yeah, I'm actually really, really pleased about this class thus far.
Yeah.
I feel like regardless.
Who's headlining?
I think it's a co-headline if they're announcing them on the same day. So I feel like they're co-headliners.
I feel like it should be Batista, though.
I feel like it should be Batista. But then again, not to take away from anything that Batista did, because he obviously deserves it. I feel like the NWO headlining would make a lot of sense because the NWO is the most influential professional wrestling faction.
Very true.
Of all time. Of all time. Without the NWO, we wouldn't have DX.
There's no Bullet Club.
There's no Bullet Club.
There's no Elite. There's no none of these niggas.
There's none of them. And I feel like because DX went in last year, they need something to kind of balance that from a WCW side. So I do believe that the NWO would be an appropriate headliner. But Batista, his worth goes without mentioning. The guy is a 6-time world champion, a former tag team champion, former member of Evolution. He was one of the biggest stars in the business when it came to the mid-2000s. Yeah. So and his match with Hunter last year was a good way for him to go out. Yeah. So I believe that both of them deserve to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well deserved. I was going to ask you, who do you think the third inductee should be?
Well, every year we have a women's inductee, and really quickly, my thoughts on these two. Like I said, we only acknowledge
Scotty, Kev, and Sean. That's it.
We don't acknowledge Hogan.
Terry.
I'm sorry. We don't acknowledge Terry Bollea.
Wildin'.
And as far as Batista goes, Batista, like, come on. Like, he is really, like, a huge part of my childhood. Everybody knows I started watching wrestling about 07, 08. So that's, Batista was still, like, really huge at that point. So
Batista deserves to go into the Hall of Fame for his Dana Brooke romance alone. All for the strength of that.
They said that Dana Brooke should be the person that inducts him. That would be great.
What's up?
Hi, Mr. Allen.
You should get that out your nose. Bye. Bye. Oh my God.
Anyway, but as far as
you're annoying.
As far as other people, there was a rumor going around on Twitter that the Bella twins would be inducted. Now, he rolls his eyes. I actually wouldn't mind it. As far as I'm concerned, both of them are retired. Nikki Bella cannot wrestle again because she has I don't remember what it's called. I don't think
something with her neck.
Her
back.
Something on her brain.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like a cyst or something on her brain that just is like it's a wrap. Like she cannot wrestle anymore unless a miracle happens. She better call the name of Jesus. That's all I got to say about that.
Plead the blood. You wearing all that red and you
because I really would have loved to have them at WrestleMania for those women tag team championships.
That I can see them doing. That's what I deserve.
So in all intents and purposes, they're both pretty much retired. Now listen, you don't have to like them, but you cannot deny kind of the influence that they've had on the women's division.
Very true.
The two of them, they, while they were, I never necessarily considered them like groundbreaking talents. I always thought that together they were like great. You know what I'm saying? Like they definitely helped when it came to getting the women, to a more mainstream, level in the company.
Right.
Being some of the first people ever on the Total Divas show. Now, some people hate Total Divas. I actually think Total Divas is a great way to bring more fans in. Total Divas drew me back to wrestling.
Right.
Because I stopped watching wrestling for like a year because I was tired of it. And then Total Divas really kind of drew me back in.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, like this, I like this. And, Total Divas is one of the things, you see the Bellas got cut from their first ever, from the first ever women's match at WrestleMania. It wasn't the first ever women's match. I'm lying. It was like the first women's match in quite some time at WrestleMania. And I think it was since Mickey and Trish. So what was that, 06?
Yeah, that was in Chicago.
That
22.
was 06. And then this was 2013. So this really was like the first women's match in quite some time.
Yeah,
like
almost a decade.
Yeah, and they ended up getting cut. So there were no women's matches on that show because a lot of the women's matches were mixed tags or, Divas Battle Royals or whatever. But they had gotten cut, and to see at the end of the decade, they are main eventing WrestleMania. in the last WrestleMania of the 2010s, the women are main eventing WrestleMania. And I definitely think that Total Divas had a big part in that.
Yeah.
And,
And the Bella Twins.
And the Bella Twins, So as far as I'm concerned, I personally love Nikki's singles run in 2016. She, to me, was one of the SmackDown 6, those 6 women that came in during that initial 2016 brand split. I think that she really helped elevate that SmackDown Women's division. Would have loved to see her with the Raw SmackDown Women's Championship. And Brie Bella, Brie Bella, I think her probably career moment is that rivalry with Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
Which really wouldn't have happened if Daniel Bryan didn't get injured.
Yeah.
Or if it would have happened, it probably would have been like a mixed tag. But even still, it kind of gave her one of her biggest matches in her entire career. And then, her retirement match, which she came back for more matches. But that match at WrestleMania 32 where she left to go have Birdie, I thought that was really good too. She introduced a really nice transition into the Yes Lock that I'm stealing. I'm stealing it from you, Brie. So I feel like, she has a beautiful family. She that's just, what she wants. This is what she wants to do. And, I feel like the Bella Twins should go in.
With you saying that, I can kind of agree. If there are women that deserve to go into the Hall of Fame, it will probably be them. And to be honest, I can't really think of anybody else at the moment.
And if you want to draw a lot of people to this Hall of Fame, you're going to have to put people with like big fan base. Like, are you kidding me? The Bella Army would show up and show out for that. Okay. Period. I would be there with my Fearless Nikki shirt on. Because I have a Fearless Nikki shirt because I love her. Anyway, so yeah, we want to know what you guys think of the WrestleMania 36 2020 Hall of Fame. And if you have any thoughts, of course, you leave them down below.
Praise the Lord.
All right, so we are getting into another segment that I like to do when I produce shows. This Week in Wrestling History.
There we go.
This Week in Wrestling History, we have... So it's actually... What's today? Today is the 13th, so... okay, whatever. 15th. We're filming this on Friday. It's fine. They know that we don't do it on the
live.
day.
Yeah.
They don't know. Even though we go live, it's a recorded episode. So y'all be talking to us, and we obviously not going to respond because we're not there. We're like doing stuff. So I'm sorry. We are going to be talking about the day Bret Hart debuts in WCW, following the Montreal Screwjob.
Jesus.
So that's the main highlight. So December 15th, 97, Bret Hart makes his first appearance for WCW on Monday Nitro when the chairman of the board, J.J. Dillon, revealed him to be the special guest referee between Eric Bischoff and Larry. I cannot pronounce his last name. I never could.
You see? Larry Zbyszko?
Larry Zbyszko. There we go. At Starrcade. So that's incredible. This was, and of course, back in November when I produced the last show, we talked about when the Montreal Screwjob as it happened. So not even a month later, and Bret Hart shows up in WCW. So, this is our main highlight. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I think that Bret Hart, him debuting on WCW, I don't think it was the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, it stirred up a good amount of controversy because obviously the fallout from Survivor Series 97 was a big deal in the wrestling community at the time, and it single-handedly generated one of the most controversial characters in Mr. McMahon, and it solidified D-Generation X as a heel stable, definitely. I do feel like, though, when it came to WCW, the reason why it wasn't so significant is because WCW had this horrible, horrible tendency of just recruiting ex-WWE guys and just pushing them to the moon, and they only pushed a certain amount of homegrown WCW talent.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I mean, he debuted on Monday Nitro to be a special enforcer of a match between two people who weren't necessarily active wrestlers at the time.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, that's cute, but it's like we want a match, especially if Brett's last match resulted in him being screwed out of the heavyweight championship of another respective company who just so happened to be the direct competitor of WCW at the time.
Yeah.
So, is it significant? Absolutely, in the context of the fact that it continued to keep the ball rolling for WCW's dominance over WWE in the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, wasn't necessarily the most important thing, considering how underwhelming Bret Hart's WCW run was. Granted, he was a U.S. champion. He was a tag team champion with Goldberg. He won the heavyweight title. But WCW did not necessarily have the best creative direction outside of what they did with the NWO in this first year.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I definitely think that Bret Hart's shift did, in some aspects, fundamentally change the business.
Right.
Bret Hart was a WWF guy, and to see him on WCW, I'm sure. I mean, at that time I was only like 3 months old, so yeah, I was born in '97. For all of you people who thought that I was like 25, because I know a couple of you think that I was 25. So yeah, I definitely think in a lot of aspects it definitely changed the business. So yeah, so there's that, and then also 2013 was how many years ago?
2013 was 6 years ago.
6 years ago was TLC 2013.
Tender Love and Care.
So I'm gonna read you off the card, and this will be pretty funny. So in the kickoff match, we had Fandango defeat Dolph Ziggler. Interesting. We had CM Punk defeat The Shield in a 3-on-1 handicap match. We had AJ Lee successfully defend her Divas Championship against Natalya.
Oh, Natty.
We had Big E Langston successfully defend the Intercontinental Championship against Damian Sandow.
Yo. Sandow's in he's in NWA now.
Yeah. We had Cody Rhodes and Goldust successfully defend the WWE Tag Team Championships against Big Show and Rey Mysterio, the Real Americans, and Ryback.
Right. I forgot that Ryback and Curtis Axel were both managed by Heyman at the time, too.
We had R-Truth defeat Brodus Clay in a Somebody Call My Lawyer match.
Yo.
I was waiting on you to get that. We had Kofi Kingston defeat The Miz in a no disqualification match. We had the Wyatt family defeat Daniel Bryan in a 3-on-1 handicap match.
I remember that.
And in the main event, we had Randy Orton, WWE champion, defeat WWE champion Randy Orton defeat World Heavyweight champion John Cena to become WWE World Heavyweight champion.
The unified. That was the unification match.
Followed by one of the that was, of course, the week of one of the greatest segments of all time, which we will talk about next week.
I remember that segment. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. So that's the TLC 2013 card. It's crazy to see how many people on this card are either no longer with the company, still with the company, are in a completely different position in the company. I haven't heard the words Divas Championship
in a while.
In a very long time.
Don't bring that word up to Sasha Banks either. Yeah, I feel like that. I think that's kind of one of the funniest things about just like looking at old pay-per-view cards. It's just like, wow, this person is dead, not in this company anymore.
We're gonna do that a lot next week.
Oh, absolutely. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
It's interesting to kind of look at old pay-per-view cards to see who is with the company, who isn't with the company. Like Cody is like, he created a whole different brand. Goldust is in a whole different brand in his career, seeing like a resurrection through AEW. Who else? Damian Sandow is in NWA. AJ Lee is not even wrestling anymore. Who else? Fandango was in NXT. Dolph is still on the main roster. The Miz and but yeah, it's interesting to kind of see how the pieces fall over time. That's all I have to say about that.
So this is really quickly before we go into the next thing. There's an article that I just saw. Bank mistakenly puts $37 million in Texas woman's account.
I'm withdrawing that automatically.
Okay.
Like as soon as they put that in there,
Bank is like, oh, it was a clerical error. We apologize. And she's like, I just want a little finder's fee. I'm just like, sis.
a fine. She said
Bank
that.
is not giving you nothing. She said that in the article, yeah. Just like, sis, if I was you, I would have took like a calm $1,000. They're not missing $1,000. They wouldn't have noticed it.
They wouldn't have. I would have taken a calm $50 million.
I would have taken what they didn't see. You know what I'm saying? Because it was $37 million. I would have taken it so that whatever was there, so that it would have said $37 million exactly.
This is a mood.
That's mad funny, and we're not
We're not
even
going to talk about that.
Anyway, right before we go into the TLC card, because TLC is this Sunday, we just had a pay-per-view, Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Are there too many pay-per-views in WWE?
Yeah.
Because this build to TLC,
this build, and this is the reason why it's called Tender Love and Care, because I'm not acknowledging this as TLC. I feel like between the Saudi shows, between the domestic shows, between house shows, all the build-ups between the season premieres and season finales and drafts and sub-drafts and moves to NXT, I feel like everything is just kind of mixed up and diluted, and nobody really takes the time to build quality pay-per-views in WWE, with the exception of the Big Four, because there's just so much going on. I mean, I understand because WWE is a big company, and they always have a lot going on, but it's just like your pay-per-views are one of your primary sources of income as a combat sport company.
Yeah.
So it's just like you have to do a good job at, and I feel like they literally was just like, oh, wait, TLC is, it's in 2 weeks. Match. And it's just like, okay, now this is not going to be as good as it can be because there wasn't enough consideration put into it. Also, this house shows on the network thing, stop it. I don't give a damn about no damn Starrcade. I really don't. I really don't give two damns about Starrcade. And if you are gonna do house shows, please don't put stipulations for matches that are supposed to end feuds, and the feud is continuing to go. There is no reason for a last man standing match between two wrestlers who are going to continue to feud, because a last man standing match, a Hell in a Cell match, a TLC match is usually the match that ends the feud.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
As far as I'm concerned, yes, there are way too many pay-per-views in WWE. I don't think that I just think it should go back to how they were doing it back during the original brand split. You know, one pay-per-view every 6 weeks.
Who that?
My mama. Hold on.
Somebody call my mama.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah.
You're on Culture 316 right now because I'm filming.
Oh, God, bye.
That's mad funny.
We're keeping that in.
We're keeping that in.
Like I was saying, yeah, one pay-per-view every 6 weeks would be fine. You know, you start in January. You obviously have the Rumble at the end of January. You have 2 months before WrestleMania, so you can put Elimination Chamber or Fastlane in that last weekend of February, first weekend of March, and then use the rest of that build to WrestleMania.
Right.
And 6 weeks after WrestleMania, you do Backlash. 6 weeks later, you do Money in the Bank. 6 weeks later, whatever the next one is, and then 6 weeks later, SummerSlam. You know what I'm saying? Like, they had it once a month. Or if you want, you know, these Saudi shows really are glorified house shows.
They are.
You know, like I guess you can do the Saudi, if you guys have to, I guess you can do the Saudi shows and put them on the network, but don't build to them like they're giant pay-per-views.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I feel like part of the reason why they wanted those Saudi shows was to have their own extravaganza of a WWE event, because the US and Canada kind of have the whole WrestleMania thing.
True.
And I feel like part of the reason, like the whole reason why WWE did this partnership with Saudi Arabia is to bring these credible brands of entertainment to that specific space in order to build that space as a world power as far as entertainment is concerned. So they're kind of there has to be some way to be a build-up, some way to just make this important. But yeah, if you're going to do these events and you're going to do all this stuff, then you need to just be mindful of the other shows that you have. And if you are going to do the Saudi shows, then maybe cut down on other shows. Like,
True.
So, but you have options.
Who cares? Like, Clash of Champions is one of my favorite pay-per-view themes of all time. Who could care less about Clash of Champions? Who could care less about Fastlane? Fastlane literally is the most filler pay-per-view of all time.
No, Roadblock is.
But see, here's the thing. Roadblock, they did it once a year and then they stopped. Fastlane, it's like...
Essentially, it's like No Way Out on steroids. Well, it's a dumbed down No Way Out.
Well, no, because Elimination Chamber is No Way Out. So it's like they split, because Elimination Chamber is usually...
Because it was No Way Out. It was No Way Out, Elimination Chamber. And then it just became Elimination Chamber. So,
I also miss, like, pay-per-view names.
Yes.
Instead of just, we're just going to name this pay-per-view after the gimmick. Whatever. If you agree,
comment below.
If you disagree,
bomb it below.
Final topic. TLC is this Sunday. So we have WWE Tables, Ladders, and Chairs from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we are going to start with a match that we're not sure is even happening because we are filming this before SmackDown is airing. Bayley versus Lacey Evans for the SmackDown Women's Championship with a question mark because we're not sure. Who do you have and why?
I'm going to have Bayley. Once again, they have to kind of establish Bayley as a credible champion, especially after Survivor Series where she took the pin in the triple threat match of women's champions. I also believe that it was just not a good showing for a main event of a Big Four pay-per-view, so Bayley has to go off and Bayley has to show out. I feel like Lacey Evans being a face is a great idea. I feel like she's doing good work as a face, and I feel like people like her as a face.
Yeah.
But Bayley has to remain strong. I feel like she's going to be strong until Mania. I'm going to go with Bayley on this one.
I agree. I'm going to go with Bayley. I feel like the story there isn't with Bayley and Lacey. It's with Bayley and Sasha.
And I feel like it's going to lead to that.
Yeah. So, there we go. Next match on the card. Now, these matches have been announced. Okay. Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy.
I feel like this is going to be the match of the night because these guys are two incredible athletes who have proven that they can put on match of the year contenders. I believe that Aleister Black is going to come out on top because I feel like Buddy has been shown on TV frequently. He's been given wins frequently. We don't see Aleister have a lot of matches like that. So when he does pop out and when he does have a match, it's important for him to look strong. I believe that Aleister is going to win. I also believe that this is probably going to be Aleister's build to probably a mid-card title, like a U.S. title or the Intercontinental title.
I agree. I believe Aleister Black is going to win this one. I think he's really he's had very few matches on the main roster. And I feel like up to now, Buddy Murphy is like his biggest challenge besides Cesaro at the beginning of the summer. Yeah. So, that's going to be a very interesting match. We have Rusev versus Bob Lashley in a tables match. I believe, wasn't it like if Rusev wins, Lana goes to SmackDown, but if Bobby wins, Rusev goes to SmackDown. I believe that was that said?
I don't even know.
Whatever. Who do you think is going to win?
I believe that Rusev is going to win. There's no way in hell that you're going to have a build, you're going to have a feud based on divorce, and you're not going to make the face look strong or at least good. We've seen Bobby Lashley attack Rusev multiple times throughout this feud. Rusev has kind of been the laughing stock of the feud.
But we've seen Rusev attack Bobby Lashley plenty of times as well.
Very true. But I just feel like in this particular, if this is the payoff, because one of them is going to SmackDown, regardless of what happens. One of them is going to another brand. I feel like it's going to be Bobby Lashley. I think that Rusev is going to win.
I think Bobby Lashley is going to win, and I'll tell you why. Rusev stood tall. And we all know when the face stands tall, the heel usually wins because this is WWE, and WWE is the land of where baby faces are losers and they suck. So I'm just like, am I lying?
You're not.
Okay.
You're not at all.
So I think Bobby Lashley's going to win probably by fluke. Lana's probably going to,
interfere,
kick Rusev in the balls or something, or push him off the thing. I don't know. I think Bob Lashley takes the win.
The phrase Bob Lashley.
Bob Lashley. We have the New Day versus the Revival SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Who do you have and why?
New Day. They're profitable. To be honest, Revival's a great tag team. They're not interesting to me though. They've cut great promos. They're good in the ring. To me, they just don't pop. I feel like the New Day, especially since now the New Day has a podcast, which is fantastic. But New Day has a podcast. New Day is profitable. You can't really lose with the New Day being your tag champs. Also, Xavier Woods is out, so they kind of need something to keep the New Day relevant and in the spotlight. Without Xavier Woods, keeping the tag team titles on them would be that thing. So, New Day.
I agree with the New Day. As much as I want the Revival to get something, the New Day is going to retain. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
The Miz versus Bray Wyatt. Now, as far as we know now, that this is non-title.
Mizzy Poo is going to win if it's non-title, because if the title's not on the line, it's why. No, actually, no. Bray Wyatt's going to win, because even if the Miz, it's a non-title match, but you still want Bray Wyatt to look strong as the Fiend. So I feel like Bray is going to win it. I feel like Miz is going to have a great performance.
But this is not the Fiend. He's not fighting the Fiend.
He's not fighting the Fiend?
He's fighting Mr. Rogers Bray.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, if that's the case, then Mr. Rogers is going to lose to Mizzy Poo, unless John Morrison interferes.
Okay, I don't think that. I actually think that Daniel Bryan is going to interfere in this match and cost it for the Miz. So
that would make sense.
I think Bray Wyatt retains. Well, it's not a title match, but I think Bray Wyatt wins due to interference. All right, we have the Viking Raiders Open Challenge for the Raw Tag Team Championships.
They're gonna face.
Who do you think they're gonna face, and who do you think is gonna win?
They're gonna face the Club, OC, and I feel like they're gonna win. The OC's gonna win. Can't you just be going around carrying the title of best tag team in the world and not challenge for the titles? And on top of that, AJ lost the U.S. title. They need something to keep the OC out there.
I agree with the first part. The second part, I think the Viking Raiders might end up retaining. Maybe by a fluke style retain, but I definitely think the Viking Raiders will retain.
I can see that.
All right, in our first of two tables, ladders, and chairs matches, we have Roman Reigns versus King Corbin.
Roman.
Did you think it was going to be anybody else? Anyway, Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch versus the Kabuki Warriors in a tables, ladders, and chairs match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships.
Charbex.
Really?
I think that Charlotte and Becky are going to win.
Really?
I think so. The Kabuki Warriors have been tearing it up. They've been beating Becky in singles matches. They've been beating Charlotte in singles matches. I feel like the whole point of that was to have somebody like a Kairi Sane pin Becky and Charlotte so that she can be established as a main event player along with Asuka. I feel like they've beaten Charlotte on her own. They've beaten Becky on her own. They had that 4-way tag team title match at Starrcade where technically they beat all three teams. Yeah. I feel like having Charlotte and Becky win the tag team titles is a way to give those belts importance, also to give Becky's character another dimension or another facet, and to kind of add to.
Becky doesn't need another dimension.
She doesn't need another dimension, but I feel like I feel like Charbex is gonna win.
Now,
T Generation X.
I don't disagree with Charlotte and it's Charlynch. That's their name.
Yeah, that's very true.
I don't disagree with Charlotte and Becky actually winning the Women's Tag Team Championships. Mm-hmm. That is not what I want. Mm-hmm. I would like for Asuka and Kairi to retain. But if you really do think about it, who possibly else could they lose them to?
Because they don't. WWE,
there is no such thing as a women's tag team division. Literally no such thing. It's literally three teams. It's the Kabuki Warriors.
Kabuki Warriors.
The Kabuki Warriors. Ridiculous. Charlotte Flair and Becky, as much as they're not a tag team, they are. They are. And the Iconics and okay, well actually no, there
there's a good amount
tag teams. I mean, okay, if anything, I feel like it should be Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose.
Yeah.
I feel like they should be the ones to win because they really are the tag team out of all of these people. Like, they were a tag team before this tag team division thing became lit.
That's very true.
So, I don't know. I feel like it should be those two, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. And that's why I feel like they are going to retain.
Well, we're going to see because we're going to be watching TLC and we're going to be watching it. Are you going to Legends?
I should be.
I'm going to Legends and I'm watching it with my Job and Cheers podcast family. We're going to be watching Tender Love and Care. Sir Wilkes.
And I don't know if this is actually happening. Let me just check. But we all know that Battle Club Pro is having their big One for All show January 4th.
And y'all should be there.
And it's official that Sir Wilkins will be making his pro wrestling debut.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope I can be able to go.
I forgot who he's facing.
I forgot Darius something.
Is it Darius Carter?
Yeah.
Darius Carter. There we go. I'm actually quite excited for this match. Their little Twitter feud has me kind of hype. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just like, okay, I could probably give them both lessons because I do this. I do the Twitter feuding all day. I have time, hashtag.
And they're going to be planning to make a big announcement.
Yeah, huge announcement, biggest announcement in Jobber Tears podcast history.
So y'all need to be there because
I'm going. I want to go. Do you want to go?
I want to go, but I may not be available. So we're going to see
how
about it.
How I'm supposed to get there?
Very true.
Yeah, you didn't think that through, huh? I might be available. Bye. Ridiculous.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Culture 316. We're going to be back next week with our Best of the Decade show. So we'll see you guys next week. Oh, yeah. And don't forget the super bitch.
Period.